This is the Unstoppable Amazon Academy podcast,
where we bring you the business advice, skills, and e-commerce news you need to grow a profitable, sustainable business.
This is the Unstoppable Amazon Academy show where we help you build profitable, sustainable businesses. And today I have Cyndi Thomason, who is a dear friend, and she also is one of the leading people in e-commerce to help you with implementing profit first. She's a profit strategist, so she's not just a regular bookkeeper. She can help you. She will help coach you on how you can build your business in a way that's going to be more profitable. But today we have Cyndi sharing about something a little bit outside of what she normally does in her bookkeeping practice. And that is her getting ready to take a 1 month vacation. So can you imagine taking a 1 month vacation? And you might say, well, that's not possible for somebody who's doing an Amazon business. And yes, it is totally possible. I did 3 weeks. We probably could have done 4. I've done several stints of like 6 weeks where I was, pretty much away from my business. So it is completely possible for you to do this in your business, but you have to set up the systems. And so Cyndi's going to share with us today about what does it take in order to be able to have the kind of business where you can actually take a real vacation. Cyndi, thank you for joining us.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here, Robin, and you just caught me before I left town.
I know. So by the time people are listening to this, Cyndi is going to be completely unavailable for a little bit. And I think that this is something that I've felt for a long time is if you're going to grow past a certain point, you really need to schedule that vacation. You have to say, like, this is the date in the sand, I'm going to do it, and then start to work towards taking that vacation because it really does force you to create some of the systems. And last week we had Mike McAllowitz sharing about clockwork and that in the book that he has coming up that we want you to pre-order. And Cyndi is actually featured in the book as somebody who is actually implementing that in her business. So what can you share with us about the process and, how did it feel and what have been some of the unexpected gains that you got?
Well, the unexpected gain, I think, I'll start there because it brought to mind, I have the most absolute incredible team. And when Mike challenged me 18 months ago to pick a month to take off, I just kind of laughed and I'm like, yeah, right. And it took a little bit for it to sink in. But as we started moving in that direction, I just realized that my team were just so strong and so willing to grow and take on different aspects of the business that, at some point I didn't worry about it because I just knew that they were as committed to the success of the business as my husband and I are. And so when I say we, I don't think of myself as two people. Dave and I own the business together and we're partners in making this happen. And so I think that was really one of the unexpected gains. And it's just really fun to see people take on something new and excel at it and make it better than what you would have done. And that piece of it has just been really rewarding as a manager and a business owner. And you asked me like 3 questions, and that's the only one I can remember. So what else did you ask me, Robin?
So so let's start with kind of what was the process? How did you approach this? Let's start with that. So how did you approach this? Because it's a pretty daunting task because, somebody might say, well, she doesn't have an Amazon business. No, but you manage a lot of different accounts. As far as, making the books, you have a lot more employees and contractors than most of us do. So your business is every bit as complicated as ours.
Yeah, it's a knowledge business, and a large part of it is making sure you've got systems in place and processes to be sure that things are going to be repeated the same way by every team member, but also meet the needs of the client because not every client has the exact same framework for their e-commerce business. They're selling on multiple channels, their wholesale, their retail arbitrage, their private label. There's just a lot of variables. So we don't want to be cookie cutter. And we really want to understand what the needs are of our clients and meet each of their needs individually. So to me, that's a variable and a piece of the complexity that we're trying to be sure that we can replicate and everybody feels promise of having peace of mind around their books. The way we started was just by picking the date on the calendar. That was Mike's challenge. And he said, you and Dave talk about it, figure out a date between a year and 18 months out that you can take a month off. And the rationale behind that, I'm sure Mike shared this, he's the one thinking it all up. is that you want your business to go through a complete business cycle. And typically 4 weeks or a month, you go through the process. Every system in your business, for the most part, is going to be touched. The sales side of things, the lead generation side of things, the delivering the product operational side of things, the finance side, billing and collecting, all of those things are touched in that 1 month period. So that really does give your business the test of where are we falling down? Where do we not have those systems in place yet that we have our business running like clockwork? So as a result, when you make that decision that you're going to take that month off, you have to think about every aspect of your business. And for me, Mike defines in the book Clockwork, he talks about the queen bee role. And I'm sure he probably talked about this with you on the podcast. That was critical because for me, I had to understand the queen bee role for my business, and I had to understand it for me as a business owner. And what Dave and I did as in terms of understanding that role was we realized that our queen bee role was that we wanted to deliver peace of mind, that brand promise that came out of thinking about what it was we're really doing with our clients and that peace of mind around their financials. And as I then took that one step further into Cyndi as the business owner, what it was that I was doing in serving my clients, the thing that became critical for me in the business was that I realized I had to be the one that communicated our mission and our perspective on doing accounting for e-commerce businesses. And when I understood that better, it gave me a sense of clarity around everything else that I was doing and whether or not it was really contributing to the role that was vital for the business. And once I made that decision, it really gave me the perspective to understand that a lot of what I was doing really wasn't contributing to the role that I needed to have in the business to make the business be successful. And when you understand that, then fundamentally you figure out some other way. It's not to say those things aren't important. It's just that they're not important for you to do. And Mike gave me the example of going to a doctor's office. When you go into your doctor's office, he's not the one that greets you at the door and says, hang on, let me pull your file and let me, get your insurance card. He's the one that's, you're in a room waiting and he or she comes in and gets a little bit of information. A lot of times it's already collected by somebody else and he reviews it, she reviews it and says, okay, I think you have such and such a problem and you need this prescription. And then he goes on his merry way and somebody shows you out and somebody takes your money and files your insurance. And so when you realize that what your particular role is that's critical for the business, all the rest of that stuff can fall away. I don't have to be the one that answers every email. I don't have to be the one that does every aspect of bookkeeping for our clients. It really allows you to think about the things that you can shed and the things that you need to stay focused on. And when you're focused on those few things, then you can really get productive and make things happen.
So let's say somebody is doing retail arbitrage. You might say that everything I do is important, but then you might say, it's really, my queen bee role is, having the relationship with those managers. Or if it's your wholesale, it might be, well, my, queen bee role is really talking with these wholesale vendors, creating and maintaining my relationships with them is really important. For OA, it might be, well, the thing that I really need to do is I have to really evaluate those buys. My VAs bring them to me, but my main piece is to do some piece of that process. But you want to make sure what is it that only you can do. And by taking this time off, it allows you to start to think about how could I have these things done by somebody else? And it opens you up to think about maybe some options that weren't available to you before. And I can't speak for Cyndi, but I found that when I did something similar where I took a long period of time off, there were a lot of things I was like, well, I'll just have them do it for this 1 month, but I don't want them to do it all the time because it's too important to the business. And then once I gave it away, I realized I'd been kind of overemphasizing my importance. And really, this was not a task that I necessarily needed to do, that anybody else could fill in the numbers in this box just as well as I could. And, my time was better used doing something else instead of that. And so we chose not to bring back those activities into my description as I came back from that trip.
That's right. And it's interesting as you start to shed things and you see other people take them on and do really well at them, then you can start to see, well, maybe they can also take this other thing on too. And when you see how they approach it and how creative they are, you start to learn maybe there's some other ways to do things that I hadn't even thought about, and they may even do it better. Maybe I get in the way of some of this instead of help it out. And it's an interesting journey. But once I got started down that path, it changed my thinking from the standpoint of I've got to get this done. It was like, I've got to do this, and it'll be the last time I do it. So how am I going to make sure somebody else handles it in the future? And, it doesn't happen overnight. You identify, okay, well, obviously we have to do quotes, and I'm going to need somebody to help me do quoting. And we made some shifts within the business to where one of our accountants started helping in that process because she was really good in working with people. But you didn't flip a switch. That's something you had to develop and train for, but you're constantly thinking about it. It just drives you forward.
And I would say that you and Dave approached this problem with a little bit of a different perspective and different concerns. And I think that a lot of people that are husband and wife teams, it's getting everybody on board, and not even getting everybody on board, but dealing with the unique set of concerns that each person in the business has.
Right. And you can't just upset the apple cart and do it all at once. So it's taken 18 months, and maybe that's Parkinson's law. And maybe if we'd picked 12 months, we'd have gotten it done too. But I don't think so. I think we really did have 18 months of work to get done. And we're not 100% where we'd like to be, but Dave and I both are 85 to 90% where we think we would like to be. So that, in talking to Mike earlier this week, he's like, that's a really high number. You should feel proud of that. So I'm trying to feel proud about it, not scared about it. But you can't do it all at once. So you have to determine what is the way we approached it anyway, is we picked 3 things to work on every quarter. We have 90-day plans, and we look for the top 2 limiting factors in our business that we think are the 2 biggest concerns or constraints to our business. We look at that every 90 days, pick those top couple of things, and then we analyze what's the home run. If we got this right, it would just knock it out of the park. And then we also evaluate, okay, what's the low-hanging fruit? What can we just do tomorrow by simply buying different paper or something? We could just go do it and make a change. And when we look at it and try to analyze those 2 things together, we come up with, as a result of looking at those 2 limiting factors in our business, we come up with the 3 things that we're going to work on and develop action plans around for the next quarter. And so knowing that in 18 months we were going to take a month off, we've just been systematically using that 90-day planning process. Mike has used the term tacking and jibing, which is a sailing thing where, if you don't have the wind at your back, you have to turn the sail a little bit and go a little bit different direction than maybe you want to go to just get movement. And then you can adjust. And that's what the 90-day plans have done for us. It's, we move in that direction. We got there. It looked a little different than we thought. We adjusted our sail and moved forward another 90 days. And that's the process that we've been using. And I think doing that jointly together has helped us, for the most part, agree on the major things that we needed accomplished.
And, I think that when people look at goals, sometimes they say, well, goals are stupid because you don't know if you're going to hit this. And I think it's because they look at it almost like a contract with yourself that you can't change. And, I kind of view goals as, an idea that's going to try to pull me into action. An idea that kind of inspires me to take that extra 10 steps. And so, like you said, sometimes you have to move in the wrong direction or, maybe not the ideal direction in order to get some movement so you can start to gain that momentum, and being flexible with your goals and being able to move with them. Because I think that when somebody starts to look at outsourcing, a lot of times, you hire somebody and they don't work out. And then you hire somebody else and maybe they worked out, but they're still not quite right, or you're still frustrated. And it's easy then to say, you know what, this just isn't for me, and to step back, because there's still times when I'm trying to outsource something new where I get so frustrated, I'm like, it would just be easier for me to do it myself. But then I realize every time I do that, I'm literally saying that my income will not go past a certain point.
Right. And there's a little bit of ego in there too. And I'm
Yeah.
guilty of it where, nobody can do it as good as me, And you have to learn, and this is something Mike talks about in the book, and, being a part of his mastery group with Profit First. I've heard him talk about it 3 or 4 times now, and I'm trying to internalize it. But he talks about the 4 Ds. And let me see if I can get them right. Doing, deciding, delegating, and designing. Those are the 4 Ds. Doing is, where you're the technician in your business and you have to do the work. When you decide, you basically, you give it to somebody and then you have them check back in with you. So I say, Sue, I'd like you to prepare this quote, but let me look at it before it goes out. So I haven't really delegated that. I've given it to someone to do a piece of the work on, but it comes back to me for the deciding piece of it. If you really get to delegation, it's where you let somebody else be responsible. And I say, Sue, I'd like you to do this quote. And, be sure you keep the customer's interest in mind, and be sure you remember to quote, our software cost or whatever, or follow this procedure that we have, and work with the client to be sure this is all worked out. And then you have to sit on your hands, and you have to, even when they come back to you and have questions, you have to coach them through how to make those decisions and gather the information rather than just saying, do it this way, take this step. And so that's true delegation. And when you get to a point in your business where you have the true delegation going on, then you can step back and you can start designing the business the way you want it. This is, a part of maybe a chapter I can't remember in the book, but it certainly made me think differently about the way I turn work over to someone else, because sometimes I do want them to just help me out and bring it back for a decision. But when you make a decision that you're going to be gone for a month, you have to have that delegation piece going on, and they have to be responsible, and they have to have done it long enough that they've practiced it and run into problems and figured out for themselves how they're going to solve it. And if it didn't go exactly the way you wanted it to go, you have to sit there and say, yeah, but you took action and that was great. And how would we do it different next time? And be supportive, because, if you've got a good team, they're working for your interest.
And that can work the other way too. So if you try to just say, hey, new person, I'd like you to run this part of the business that you have no experience with, have fun, and then get upset with them because they didn't do it right, that's not fair either.
No.
So what I hear you saying is you start off with a task where they're doing the pieces and you're doing the deciding. And then you're moving towards, now that you understand this process, now I'm going to empower you to be in charge of the entire process. And that includes cleaning up any messes that you make. But this process is now yours to adjust. It's now yours to be responsible for, and having enough humility to let go of the reins enough to let them actually run with that.
Yeah. And that to me is the really exciting part. I mean, when you get to the point where you've got true delegation going on and they take ownership of it, then you really see they bring a different perspective to it, and they come up with ideas that they have a life of their own, and it's really fun to watch that happen. We've got a product now that 2 of our team members came up with, and came up with the concept, came up with the name. They've rolled it out. They had their first client huddle this past week, and it's theirs, and it's just so cool to see that happen, and they made it successful. And I wouldn't have had the energy or the time to take that on, but it was something that they felt was helpful to our clients, and they figured it out, and it's really cool.
And it's going to open you up for more opportunity, because sometimes I talk to sellers who say they really want to diversify off Amazon. And part of the key to that is first optimizing and mastering what you have, creating some systems and delegating to other people so that you can have the time to start to do these other things. And so I'm also hearing that in this process as well.
Yeah, I'm not ready to go there. I'm ready to just go sit on the beach for a little while. But maybe I'll come back and want to have a coconut booth or something. I don't know.
So was it harder than you expected, easier, or a little bit of both?
The hard part was before I was able to hand off some of the work. I was basically working all the time. Dave was too. And so we just were both always working. And that was the hard part. As we started to put pieces of the puzzle in place and I could see that starting to work, the hard part really became doing it fast enough, The really unexpected thing that I just could not have foreseen was the personal growth that I'm having as a result of doing this. There's aspects of the business that I had no idea would be appealing to me that I'm finding I'm just loving. And as a result of that, I have the time to invest in my personal growth as a coach and as a speaker. And 18 months ago, I didn't feel like that was comfortable. I know I didn't feel like it would have been a comfortable thing. And now instead of it feeling uncomfortable, it's just really exciting. And I'm just so thankful I have the opportunity to do a little self-discovery about me and what I might want to do in the next few years of my life, instead of just how am I going to get the next set of financial statements out.
It sounds like I'm hearing underneath that is you had the ability to kind of reconnect to your passion around your business and disconnect from the constant work. And, so you were almost able to kind of shift the power in your business back to you, not from anybody else, but from where you were constantly working for your business to now your business is starting to provide for you in a way that it nourishes your soul, not just your pocketbook.
Yeah, that's true, because you do go through this phase where there's so much work and so much doing, you just kind of forget why you're doing it. You can't even think about it anymore. And it's that phase that I hear a lot of my clients talk about. I think I've created a monster, and I hear that and I felt that. I'm like, oh my God, this is a monster. How are we going to keep this thing going? And now it's like I've got a team keeping it going, and they're doing an amazing job at it.
And I know sometimes for me, when I go to do stuff like this, sometimes it's much scarier than I anticipated it to be, because I'm afraid hope is a wonderful thing. But with hope, there is the good kind of hope that we have, like the hope that we have maybe in our faith life or things that, there's a reason for us to have that hope. But I feel like sometimes in business, it's easy to slide into what we call yucky hope. And that's optimism on top of despair, where you feel like, your mind and your heart, you say, there's no reason to think that things are ever going to get better than they are right now. Mm-hmm. And, while I have a good life, I can't complain. I'm working too many hours. I'm not making enough money. And I don't want to admit that to my friends because I don't want them to think less of me. Because I think everybody has that thought in their business, regardless of how much they're making or how much they're bringing home. The more successful you have, there's always the next chapter. And so I think it can be scary to go look at your business and say, like, well, I'm going to really spend time doing this, because I think people feel like, if I do this and it doesn't work out, then I'm not even going to have the hope that's keeping me going right now. So for somebody that's on the opposite side of that, somebody who's sailed that ocean, what would be your words of advice for somebody who knows that they think they want to do this, but they're afraid that if it doesn't work out, this is just going to be one more reason that everything's been for nothing?
Well, I think anytime you take on something like this, you're stepping into the unknown. And I've got a little magnet on my desk that says, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. And my friend Lori gave it to me. She actually was the first award winner at ProfitCon last year for Stepping Out of Your Comfort Zone Award. I forget the name of it, but I think they created it for her because she has over and over again looked at something that was really uncomfortable for her and said, okay, I don't like it, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I think we intuitively know in our gut what's good for us and what's not. And if it feels in your gut like this is the thing that's going to help you get unstuck in your business and achieve where you want to go, it may not work for everybody. It may not work for me. We'll find out here soon. But I can tell you the process of getting to this point has been amazing. And even if we said tomorrow we're not doing it, I'd be really disappointed, but my business has achieved so much just because we planned for it. So it felt right to me. When Mike suggested it, I'm like, it's scary, but it's the thing that's going to push us to take steps that otherwise we might just put off because there's no time pressure to do it. So knowing that it felt right, I just trust my intuition a lot, and it felt right to me, and I just said we're going to do it. And so if it feels right to you, then I can guarantee you, even if you don't get to the ultimate thing of taking that month off, you will have grown so much and your business will have grown so much that there's no losing in it.
And I think that once you start to do this, you're going to start to see how your business can grow beyond you and how it doesn't have to be where you're working 80 hours a week. Now, there's going to be times in your business that you are. There's times when you're experiencing rapid growth or times when you're building a new leg of your business or a new process system and you're really engaged in your business, but you want to be able to have those seasons where you're able to breathe enough to have some perspective and to get those things. And I'm totally excited for Cyndi. She's going to be in Hawaii. She's going to be ending up her trip at ASD, speaking at ASD. So if you want to talk to the post-tan Cyndi, make sure you come to her session at ASD. She's going to be talking about profitability and profit first. You can come and do that. And Cyndi, I want to thank you so much for sharing all of this. And if people want to get a hold of your team, since you're not going to be available for a couple weeks, what is the best way for them to reach you?
BooksKeep.com. There's a contact us form there that will be monitored. If anyone wants to reach out about needing help with bookkeeping, Bree, B-R-E-E, at BooksKeep.com. She's our business development person. She'd be glad to talk with you. My email is being monitored, so if you send something to Cyndi, C-Y-N-D-I, at BooksKeep.com, someone on the team will see it and respond to you.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I hope you have an amazing time in Hawaii, and I hope you get all the shaved ice with macadamia ice cream that you want. And I'm a little bit jealous that I will be traveling in other parts of the country, but I look forward to hearing about your adventure when you get back.
Thanks, Robin. I can't wait to share it with you.
All right. This has been another episode of the Unstoppable Amazon Academy Show, where we help you build a profitable and sustainable business. Have a prosperous week.
Are you looking to grow your business?
Join our Unstoppable Amazon Academy with hundreds of video and step-by-step tutorials to walk you through the skills you need to take your business to the next level. Find out more at bestfromthenest.com/academy.
Use the promo code podcast to get a 14-day trial.